Hey, what is up guys? Welcome back. So I wanted to make sort of a guide video like I used to in the past. I've been getting a lot of questions, like a lot of people are asking me what monster should I build to maybe get into B7, or I've been farming B7 for a while now, but I want to invest my resources into making a 6-star monster, and which monster should I 6-star first to start doing B8, B9, B10 or something like that. So this is my just really I guess it's a general guide. It's not really like a detailed guide, because a lot of the monsters that I use they definitely aren't farmable. Like, I think in Monster Super League you don't have to really be forced into using farmable monsters. The summon rates for Monster Super League are really good, like compared to a lot of similar games. Like Monster Super League actually gives you some really good monsters most of the time, so you don't necessarily need to have all the these specific Nat 4, Nat 5 monsters to do certain things, but you definitely should use whatever farmable monsters, like especially event monsters, like the exotic ones, the ones that are only available through events, like the Snowies, the Jacks from before that probably, like, if you just started now, you probably don't have them. But monsters right now, like rebirth monsters, like the July, like the Mona, these monsters are all monsters that you are able to obtain, I guess, relatively easily, except for the Dark Mona. I have no idea why I can't get her, but that's besides the point. Like, before the Dark Mona, I've been able to get every single event monster, or rebirth monster, so it's not that bad. Obviously, I didn't start playing the game when it first started, so I don't have access to like an Evil 3 Light Victoria. I don't have the the Jill, not Jill, the Jack, yes, the Jack, the Dark Jacqueline. I don't have that either. But there are a lot of monsters that you're able to use, so you don't necessarily have to use a full farmable team. Like, I mean, it's always nice when people show guides and stuff of full farmable monsters, but I actually don't have like a team of all farmable monsters. So the first thing that you're going to do probably in any of the Golem dungeons is probably you're just going to get through, and the first stage that you're probably going to stop and start farming on is probably B4. B4 is the next stage. Like, if you look at these stages, every 3 stages it moves up to the next rank. So these only drop from 2-star to 3-star runes, and then or gems, I mean, and these drop 3-star to 5-star gems, and then these ones drop 4-star to 6-star gems, and then B10 drops like a random amount of, or random type of gems, and they all drop a specific type of gems. So technically, these 3 stages are just as hard as each other. If you ignore the element advantage, these 3 stages are like the bosses are basically as strong as each other. Same thing with B4 to B6, and the same thing with B7 to B9. Obviously, the bosses do have different active skills, which makes some of them stronger than the other ones, but it's mostly about the element advantage that you use against the boss to help you clear through these stages. So when you first start the game, the wood stage over here is probably very easy to farm. You can basically farm it with a 4-star team of just random monsters. You don't really need to have anything unique or special. As long as you don't use too much water on the stage, you should be fine, because it's, the boss is wood. You're probably going to start playing the game, and then by the time you clear like Star Sanctuary or something, you probably should be able to come and farm come and start farming B4. And the main reason you want to start farming B4 is not for the gems. The gems don't really give you you don't really get really good gems. You get mostly 3-star to 5-star gems, and it's very rare to even get 5-star gems here, so it's kind of not really worth the resources to farm this. But the thing is, the gems actually sell for a lot of gold. So if you're trying to farm for gems, it's not a good place to farm for gems. But if you're short gold and you need gold fast, then B4 is a really good place to start getting your gold fast to, you know, eventually make some of your monsters 6 stars and stuff. But you actually don't really need 6-star monsters to get into the next 3 stages of golems. So most of you guys are, well, not most of you guys, but like I think a lot of people, once they finish B4, they start moving on to B7. I think this is for the majority of the newer players, because B4 you really don't need to put any strategy into making a team for. You can basically do it with just the monsters that they give you for free. Well, not the ones they give you for free. You know, just like random monsters. Like literally, you can use anything, just as long as you don't use like too much water. And for B7, B7, I get a lot of questions about B7 as well. B7 is mostly about using a full wood team. You can pretty much do it with any 4 wood monsters. Let me just see if I have any gems on any of them. It's kind of bad because I don't actually have any gems on a lot of these wood monsters. But you can basically throw in 4 wood monsters, and as long as one of them is a healer, you should be able to clear this pretty easily. So, you know, teams, something like this, you don't even need to use any of the 4-star monsters. You can use like some farmable options for wood healer are like the Minicat. The Coteen is pretty good. The Siren's decent as well, but it's not that hard to get like wood Hana, wood Cupid, wood what's another healer? Wood Kira is kind of bad. I'm not sure if you want to raise her, but technically you could raise her, and you only need to get them to 5 stars, and basically you just need to get their gems to plus 12. So actually, wait. Yeah, I think I remember I didn't even get their gems to plus 12. I only got like some of their gems to like plus 9 or plus 6, and I basically I use like, you know, basically just this set. Just these gems, and I was able to farm this stage pretty easily. You basically just gem all your monsters with HP, defense, attack on your attackers, on all 3 of your other monsters, and then on your healer you gem with like HP double defense or HP defense recovery, and then you should be able to clear this boss pretty easily. It's pretty easy because you don't really need to put a lot of strategy into this. I do get some questions about like which monsters I should use, but there's a lot of really good just random farmable monsters like the Miho, the Mona. Those are 2 really good monsters that you can still use like for a long time, even when you just keep them at 5 stars. I'm just gonna sell my gems really, like a set of gems really quick, so I can actually go in and do some runs. So I'll just go in and I'll do like a full wood team fast run. But I guess these 2 monsters, originally he was also part of this team, but I actually got him to 6 stars for Dragon's B10, so he's 6 star now. He's no longer at 5 stars. But you can use any 5-star monsters, like just as long as you gem them decently, you should be able to clear the stage. And a really good way to get 4-star gems is actually not to farm the lower level golems, because you're not always guaranteed to get the type of gems or the shapes you want. I mean, the thing is, B5 and B6 are actually harder to farm than B7. Like, the reason for this is because B5 is dark, and dark monsters have no, like, you can't use any sort of elemental advantage against them. B6, I can't remember exactly why he was harder. I think he has like, yeah, he has like stun and HP recovery, and I think the side monsters have like armor break or something like that, so it makes the stage a little bit harder. But the reason why B7 is a lot easier is because the boss doesn't really have any, I mean, he has fatigue and petrification, which doesn't really do much, and it's a 2-turn petrify on a 40% chance, which means that if he petrifies you on the next turn, when you do actually get a turn, you will, like, when he hits you again, you'll be petrified, which doesn't really matter because petrified monsters get increased defense, so you barely take any damage, and fatigue is like pretty much a useless debuff against your monster, so you don't really need to really defend against that, and his side monsters don't really have any sort of armor break, and that's why B7 is a really good place to start like seriously farming for golems, like farming golems for like either gold or just the diamond slot gems. So the way you want to get 4-star gems is you can clear the first 2 maps, like Phantom Forest or Lunar Valley. I think even just Phantom Forest is fine. You should be able to clear this pretty easily once you raise your teams that you're going to use for B7 to 5 stars, or even with some of them at 4 stars. You should definitely be able to do it. And because the team that you're going to be raising is going to be full wood, and these monsters are wood and water, which wood has elemental advantage against. Like wood has elemental advantage against water, and wood is wood is just neutral with wood. So you basically get free elemental advantage if you farm this first map with wood monsters. And it gives you these tenacity sets, which actually gives you a little bit of bonus HP if you complete a full set, which is still really good. Like early on, this is definitely every little bit of HP helps early on, so that's pretty nice. So you can basically gem your monsters up with gems from this stage, and then you can go straight into Golems B7. I guess I can do a really quick run of Golems B7 with like a full wood team, and I'll show you guys the boss. Really, he doesn't have any sort of threat at all. He hits like a wet noodle, and he has no strong debuffs. And with all your monsters being wood, you take even less damage from the mobs. I think 1 healer should be enough. I mean, if 1 healer is enough, you could do 2 healers, but then that increases the runtime. But there's no real downside to having 2 healers in Golem speed or in any of the Golem stages, because the Golem doesn't have any blessing buff. Besides the fact that the runs obviously take longer if you run 2 healers. But if you want to play it safe, you can definitely use 2 healers as well, or you can use if you I'm not sure if there's any wood passive healers. The wood Valk, but she's a nat 5, and if you have her, you can probably she can probably even just solo the stage if you just get her to 5-star and gem her with like 4-star gems plus 12. She probably could solo this, I think, if you have her. Alright, I don't think using the wood wild thing was that good of an idea. Main reason is she petrifies, which kind of I guess it's kind of good. If you want safer runs, it's like CC is always nice. But if you want faster runs, then petrify is not a good debuff to have on your team. My Miho is kind of dying because her gems are like only at +6, but I'm not. I think I just kept her like that just for. I mean, I don't really use her anymore, so I didn't really do any upgrades to her gems. But you can basically, like, if you want to play it safe, just get everything to +12, and you should be able to clear this stage much faster. And even like if you have +12 gems and you have like just a few decent substats, you could gem your monsters with like defense, double attack. And then if you have some like bonus HP substats, it can boost their HP up a bit, and you should be able to clear the stage much faster. It's always nice to clear faster because the more you farm, like the game actually gives you a lot of Astro Gems back, like with all the weekly things like the arena, the clan, the league. I'm not sure if the league gives you anything, but events also give you a lot of Astro Gems as well. And whenever you use 6-star or Evil 3 monsters, they give you more bonus Astro Gems as well. You can get Astro Gems from clicking on the bushes on the ship as well. So the game gives you a lot of bonus Astro Gems, and the best way to spend Astro Gems isn't to summon; it's to actually use it to farm and stuff. So because if you use your Astro Gems to farm, you can basically get the eggs, and the eggs you can hatch to summon monsters. And at the same time, you can have a chance to get better gems to help your monsters, like to upgrade your monsters. And also with the like the bad gems that you get, you can sell them, and that's basically the best way to make gold in the game. So you wanna farm as much as possible and not use your gems to do summonings, because you eventually will be able to farm the eggs. Like the eggs will drop, and you can just use those to summon. I do think that the summon rates for the eggs versus using your Astro Gems, like the 600 Astro Gems to do the 10+1, that actually has a better rate. But I mean, you can still get Nat 5s and stuff from eggs. I've gotten a lot of, I've gotten like 2 of my Nat 5s from eggs as well. So 2 or 3, I can't remember. I think maybe 3 Nat 5s. Yeah, I've gotten 2 Nightmares and my Shiva from the egg, so it's not that bad. Alright, that's pretty much it for B7. Like, B7 is really easy. Alright, we're gonna get into a little bit. This is probably gonna be a little bit harder now. B9 and B8. I would recommend you guys have a full 6-star team to do. Like, if you want like really stable clear rates, for B8, B9 maybe not, but for B8 you definitely probably should have a full 6-star team. The reason is because well, actually the B9 boss isn't that hard. You could probably do with a 5-star team, but he actually is really annoying. He has a lot of sap, and this actually kills you really fast. Like, he has 100% chance to inflict sap, and then this. He inflicts a 2-turn, like 2 types of sap for 2 turns, and then this also does the same thing as well, and this has a chance to inflict 3 types of sap. So if all 3 of these land on you, it's basically like 30% of your HP gone. Like, the moment that this lands on you, you have to calculate as if 30% of your max health is just gone, plus the damage that he's actually going to be doing through his nukes. And yeah, how just like the side monsters, the 2 monsters on the side also attack you as well. So you have to account for that as well, because those actually do a lot of damage if your team isn't all that strong. So the best way to clear B9 is to the easiest way, I would say, this isn't the best way, the easiest way, the simplest way, the way that doesn't require you to have like the best gems possible or the best monsters, or you know, monsters evolved all the way or 6-starred, is to run healers, and especially healers that have the shield buff. So there's 3 monsters that I know. Wait, 4 monsters. 4 monsters. Alright, if you don't include the light dark monsters, there's 3 monsters that I know that has the shield buff, which is this. That is the water minicat, the water minicat, the wood cupid, and the fire cura. Yes, those 3 monsters. I'm not sure which other monsters have them. Like, if you don't include any of the light dark monsters, I mean, there's a few light dark monsters that have the shield buff as well. The good thing about the shield buff is the shield buff blocks out any sort of debuffs while the shield buff is on, and the boss himself doesn't do that much damage. I mean, he still does a decent amount of damage. You know, I'm not sure if decent is the right word, but because he's like the enemy, but he still does a significant amount of damage. If you like, you know, if you just take into these 2 skills into account, if you just ignore the sap damage, like just with his normal skill and active skill, he still does a significant amount of damage. But if your monsters are really tanky, there's a pretty high chance that he's not going to be able to break through your shield, especially if you're using like the fire cure and you're running a full fire team. Then he's going to have a very hard time breaking through the fire cure's shield. And what this does is it makes it so your monsters don't actually land any sort of, like, don't get any of the saps landed on your monsters, because the shield also serves as a buff that blocks out any sort of debuffs that you can have land on your monster. That's one strategy that you can use against him. The other another strategy is to obviously stack heals. Like, if you run basically double healers, there's a much higher chance that you won't die. And especially if you're running a full fire team of all double healers, and also to stack resistance. Like if you have higher resistance, then there's less of a chance that his sap will actually hit you, and you can just use that to your advantage and eventually just kill him. It'll be slower, but it'll be safe and reliable. The third way is to use a self-sustaining damage dealer. Like a good example is the firewall thing. I think the firewall thing is basically perfect for this stage. There are some people that have very, very strong firewall things that can completely solo this boss. I'm not sure if this one's able to. Alright, this one probably not, but I've seen a few that are pretty strong. I think his could do it. I think this one can do it. I'm pretty sure this one can do it. And if you have like a lot of monsters like the Fire Succubus and you have her at pretty high crit rate, and you use these monsters that basically have a lot of self-sustain. There's a few of them: the Firewall thing, the Fire Succubus, the Fire Vampire, the Wood Boltwing, the Light Snowy, there's a lot. Mostly damage dealers. I'm not gonna include like adrenaline monsters, because adrenaline monsters are usually built tanky and they heal based on not on the amount of damage they do. They heal based on the amount of like maximum HP that they have. So I'll just do a really quick run of what I would run for B9. Just probably this. I mean, I could not use a passive heal. I guess this is probably better. So this is like a shield monster. Dark Sea Star is good everywhere. Like she's just perfect for anything. You can use her for PvP, any sort of dungeon. Doesn't matter which dungeon. She'll do well in. And I put in 2 fire monsters. Like this is what I've used to farm B9 for a long time. Obviously you probably won't have all the same monsters, especially if you started late. You probably don't have access to the Dark Sea Star. This was a rebirth monster that you would have been able to get if you started playing like a few months ago. These 2 are obviously not summonable, so I guess I technically could not use the Fire Arthur, but I don't have any other fire monsters to use. So I guess he's my only fire monster. I guess I could probably use someone else's fire monster. No, they're all fire nat 4 nat 5s as well. So I guess it's the same thing. Alright, it's the same thing. You can use any fire monster. A good way to build it is to have a healer. You could also do double healer as well. I think double healer is probably pretty reliable if you just have. I'm not sure if I have 2 healers I could use. I mean, I technically do have this Dark Cura, but I don't have her gemmed at all. She has recovery defense. I guess she's strong enough. Alright, I'll just put her in like this. But then I have no leader skill. Actually, no, this fucking sucks. I'm gonna put in my Dark Sea Star. Alright, this is what I used to farm B9 for a long time, before I eventually moved to B10. And it was pretty reliable. It was basically like what this team does is I have a shield monster that, if I could put the shield on my team, although it's not always reliable. The most reliable way is to obviously have a lot of self-sustaining monsters, because they're not afraid of the saps. Like you can keep sapping the wild thing and she doesn't give a shit. She'll basically keep healing herself back every single turn. Obviously, not a lot of, like, I don't think there's any farmable monsters that really have this, so you have to kind of summon them. But there's a few monsters that have them: the Fire Succubus, Fire Wild Thing, Fire Vampire. I think these 3 are definitely really good monsters that you can use for B9. Yeah, I think this run's definitely going to be pretty stable. And obviously, I do recommend you 6-star everyone, like before you start moving onto B8 and B9. You can get the gold from farming B7. Like if you farm a lot of B7, you can basically sell all the useless gems, and you can get a lot of gold that way, and then eventually move on to B8 and B9. The reason why I started talking about B9 before I went into B8 is actually because B9 is easier than B8. Like, it's a little bit confusing, but I mentioned before that these stages B7, B8, and B9, like the bosses are supposedly just as strong as each other, and I think stat-wise they are, but they have different elements, and they also have different passive skills. So that's why certain bosses are harder than others, depending on which passive skills that they have. And that's why the B9 boss, the B9 boss is a little bit easier than the B8 boss, because the B8 boss, I think the side monsters have armor break, and he's also light element, which means that you can't use any sort of elemental advantage against him. Elemental advantage is actually really good, especially in terms of just like tanking damage. If you have a wood monster hit your fire monsters, they do a lot less damage if your monster is fire. Like if you have a wood monster hit any of your units, if your monster is fire, you take a lot less damage compared to everybody else. I think the best way is to have like the ideal team is to probably have 3 self-sustaining nukers and then like a fire cure or something for the shield. Then this would probably be perfect. It would be really safe. I think if you use the Fire Cura, she'll definitely have a lot thicker. Her shield will definitely be a lot thicker than my Dark Cupid's shield on these units, because with the Dark Cupid shield scales with the allies like maximum amount of or max HP, and the shield on the Fire Cura scales with her level, so it's a static amount. It's basically a flat amount. I don't know the exact amount of the shield, but if you're shielding a nuker, then the Fire Cura does have a better shield. Oh, and also the new monster, the Venus, the Light Venus that's coming out. That's gonna be fusible. She also has a shield as well, so you can probably use her as well. If you started playing during this time and you're capturing the truffles, you could fuse her and start using her as your shield unit. That loading screen, that thing that just popped out, that's the Venus. She's not available yet, but she's going to be available next month. And I think that's pretty much it for B9. Like, it's basically all about sustain. Resistance does help a little bit, but it's hard to get your stats up, like especially with the limited amount of gems that you have. It's really hard to get your stats up to the point where you have enough attack, defense, HP, and resistance. So it's a little bit hard to push your resistance up, to reliably just use resistance to beat this boss. So definitely make use of shield units, make use of self-sustaining nukers. If you're like really, also passive healers. I think passive healers do actually help you a lot as well. Like if you have a passive healer, it means that you're going to be healing every single turn, but only 5% of that passive healer's HP. So I guess your passive healer does still need a lot of resistance, because it'll probably still die really fast with the sap. Best thing is definitely self-sustaining nukers. It's just the best thing for Golems B9, if you can. Alright, so this is Golems B8. B8 is a little bit harder than B9, I would say, because the boss has a lot of threat. Like he hits really hard. First of all, he's light, which means that you can't use any sort of elemental advantage against him, and if you use dark monsters, you'll be hitting harder against him, but he is also going to be hitting harder against you as well. So it's a double-edged sword if you use dark monsters against the light golem. And also he has 2 very threatening debuffs. He has defense down, and shock. Shock basically makes it so it's basically defense down plus stun. It reduces your defense and also stuns you. So he has really high threat, and he also hits really hard. I think I'm not sure how. Like, I think that he hits harder because you can't use like elemental advantage against him. That's why it gives off the impression that he hits a lot harder than he does, than he's supposed to. So you can basically use any element monster against him. I think the most reliable way to farm B8 is to not actually have like a full 100% clear team, but to use like mainly nukers and just nuke through the boss as hard as possible. And the reason for that is he just hits too hard for you to reliably sustain against his damage. So the easiest way is to actually kill him before he kills you. He's really squishy if you use only dark monsters. I'll do 2 runs. I'll do 2 runs of this. I'll put in my Dark Sea Star because the Dark Sea Star is good everywhere. If you're not using the Dark Sea Star, there's a few like other defense aggressors that are also really good, like the Light Victoria. Everyone has her. You can probably fuse a few Victorias and get her to Evo 2 pretty easily. She should probably do fine against this boss. And the Light Mona, who's on Rebirth right now, she's kind of the same thing. Her stats aren't as good as the Victoria because she's balance type, whereas the Victoria's defender type. I'm not sure if they buffed the HP aggressors yet, so I mean those aren't available. Those were Rebirth monsters from previous Rebirths as well. So this is an exotic event monster. I guess the best thing for me to do is probably to use. I mean, this is probably one of the more obtainable monsters. A lot of these monsters are just from events. Like, she's from Rebirth as well. Like, at every dark light monster that you see here, most of them are from Rebirths. Rebirths or events. Like, this is from event as well. I guess I'll use somebody else's monster. I mean, technically you could just use the same team that you used to farm B9, but once you have better gems, you can use it on this stage as well. I mean, this kind of works, right? I mean, I don't have any other healers. I only like active healers. I only have my Dark Cupid, so just you can use anyone. It doesn't really matter. Oh wait, I have some active healers. I do have my Water Siren. I probably could have used that. But anyways, I think you can pretty much use the same exact team that you used to farm B9 to farm B8. Like if you're running like a mostly sustained nuker comp, you technically could use the same units because they're nukers anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, dark monsters have it pretty rough here. I probably wouldn't recommend using dark monsters here unless you have really good gems on them. And the only way you can have really good gems on your dark monsters is if they don't have any square slots. If they're mostly diamond and triangle, because you can get diamond from B7 and you can get triangle from B9, meaning that technically you could have like full 6-star gems on your dark monsters once you move on to B8. So I guess that could possibly work, but a lot of it's like RNG. A lot of it depends on which monsters you have. I don't have a cookie cutter like farmable team for everything. And I don't think Monster Super League is supposed to be played that way. I mean, if you there are some games where, like, you know, if you're free to play, you can only use the monsters that are farmable and obtainable and easy to get. But the summoning rates for Monster Super League are really good, and you can definitely get a lot of these, like a lot of Nat 4 and Nat 5 monsters. Maybe not the Nat 5s, but a lot of the Nat 4 monsters, and also a lot of the event monsters are really good. The ones that they give you, like that are limited during events, those are super good. So as you can see, the side things on the things on the side are really squishy, and the boss is also really squishy as well. So if you have strong nukers, you can definitely just nuke through him. Obviously, it's not that reliable to use like a full nuke team, because your team could wipe like during the stages. But I think the easiest way to farm B8 is actually to just kill him before he kills you. Like even if your runs aren't 100%, your runs will be faster, and you can just click play again if you ever fail. Just as long as your clear is like over 80% or something like that. All right, I think that's all I can really say for B8. And then yeah, after you're able to farm B8, you can start collecting all the gems that you need, and then eventually move on to B10. Alright, so B10 is I don't know how, like I still don't really have a solution to B10 if you don't have a passive healer. B10 is very hard to do if you don't have some sort of healer that has a skill that can heal your allies passively, like without having to like activate a certain skill, like basically heal on their first skill. Even a monster that has heal on their second skill but is tied to a nuke is still better than monsters that have active like heals. So my B10 team looks a little bit like this. This is what I use to farm B10. It's my most reliable team. I think my sapper team still kind of works. I still have them gemmed, right? Or did I take off their gems? Oh, this was my sapper team. Alright, this is gonna be a little bit weird because I did put in an Nat5 here, but you technically aren't supposed to need her. But then if I'd run this, it's like a lot less reliable. If I run this, the run is like 8 minutes long, and it's about like 80% clear rate. This is the closest thing that I could get to not using a passive healer. Like, not having a passive healer is just super bad for B10. I mean, technically I could try double healer. Okay, where's my? Yeah, I could try this. I actually haven't tried it yet. But I think that the only thing you can really do if you don't have a passive healer is to stack 2 healers. Like, that's really all you can do, and hope that RNG isn't too bad. Because the reason why passive healers are so good is because it makes it so your monsters usually have full HP, and also has to do with the way that the AI works for active heals. The active healers don't use their heals unless your monsters are at 50% HP. So, which means that even if you're at like 60% HP and the enemy can kill you basically in one nuke the next turn, your healer still won't activate his skill. Not until one monster like goes under 50% HP, which is really bad. Like, it's horrible. And also, your active heals don't, like, they can't use heals unless they have their SP bar at full, and sometimes your blue souls don't always go to your healers, so that's also pretty bad as well. Which means your healers might not always have their heals ready when you need them. But I guess the only thing you can do, like the best thing you can do if you don't have any active healers is to just run 2 healers. And then run a nuker. 2 healers is pretty good against the boss, but the 2 healers is is kind of risky when you're running it against the moonflowers. Like if RNG is ever really bad and it spawns like 3 or 4 moonflowers, you're pretty much fucked. Like on the first stage, if it spawns like 3 or 4 moonflowers, you're basically dead. Which actually happens quite a lot. So it's always nice to have a passive healer. I mean, I guess this run is somewhat successful. So technically you could do two healers. Could do 2 healer and then 2 nuker. I haven't tried the full self-sustain comp like against Golems B10 yet, but I do have quite a lot of monsters that can self-sustain, like the Light Snowy, Boltwing, the Fire Succubus, Fire Wildfang. I can actually put together a pretty good team. I mean, this does look pretty stable, but a lot of things can go wrong. Like, many things can go wrong when you're running a team without any sort of passive heal. I just wish that they would give us like even a Nat 4 passive healer, because then you would still have a chance to summon it in the future. Or give us like a farm bull monster that has some sort of passive heal. There is the Light Cosmo, but he's light, which is pretty bad because all the monsters will focus him, and he needs 100% crit rate to effectively heal, which means that you can only gem 2 of his slots with defensive gems. And him being a light monster, he has a pretty high chance to actually die in Golems B10. Alright, so I guess that's pretty much it. I guess that's all there is to it, to doing Golems. I went from B4 to B10, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I really still don't have a real solution for B10. You can try with 2 healers and 2 nukers, and then see how well it goes. But the clear rate definitely won't be as good as if you actually do have a healer that has a passive heal, because it just makes everything a lot more stable. So yeah, that's pretty much it. In the future, I'll definitely test it once I build up all my light monsters. Like, I'll try a full self-sustaining light comp once I well, not a full self-sustaining light comp, but like just a full light comp with lots of random heals and stuff, and we'll see how well it does. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, especially the people that are newer to the game. This is basically how to progress through Golems, like the order of which you want to progress through Golems. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to ask, and I'll try my best to answer all of them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.